Today we're going to talk about why defending yourself is so tempting. Why intelligent people fall into that trap. Why good communicators fall into that trap. The answer is simple. Most people cannot recognize the fog. And if you cannot recognize the fog, you will spend your entire life arguing with it. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine somebody says something to you like, "Ugh, you're so difficult." What's your first instinct? Most people immediately begin defending themselves. "No, I'm not. What do you mean? It's not true. I've done everything that I can." Notice what happened. The accusation wasn't specific. The accusation wasn't concrete. The accusation wasn't factual. Yet we immediately began defending ourselves. Why do we do that? Because our brains are wired to respond to threats. And here's the problem. Your brain often cannot distinguish between a real threat and a vague accusation. So today we're going to learn one of the most important skills in this entire course. We're going to learn how to identify the fog. And from this day forward, we are going to stop defending ourselves against it. Let's start with the definition, okay? Fog is language that sounds meaningful but contains no meaningful information. Let me say that again. Fog is language that sounds meaningful but contains no meaningful information. Here are some examples. "Ugh, you're so difficult. You're emotional. You're rude. You're selfish. No one likes working with you. People are talking. You always do this. You never listen." Those statements may feel powerful. They may feel painful, but they are not specific. They are not concrete. They are not actionable. They are fog. Now, here's the first principle of today's lesson. Never defend yourself against the fog. Never. Because the moment you defend yourself against fog, you have accepted responsibility for proving a negative. You have accepted responsibility for defending yourself against something that has not even been defined yet. Instead, make the fog identify itself. Write that down. Make the fog identify itself. This may be the most important phrase in the entire course. Make the fog identify itself, because fog survives through vagueness. Fog survives through confusion. Fog survives through emotion. Specificity destroys it. Clarity destroys it. Facts destroy it. Let's look at one example. Someone says, "You're difficult." Most people respond, "No, I'm not." Wrong. Never do that. Instead, what specifically are you referring to? Now, notice what happened. You did not defend yourself. You handed the burden back. You made the fog identify itself. Let's try another one. If you're finding value in this lesson, make sure that you subscribe, because every day we are building a community of people who are learning to recognize the signs, find the words, and help one another reclaim their confidence and their peace. We rise by lifting one another up. And that's the promise that we've made to one another. So if you'd like to join us, hit the subscribe button. Now let's get back to today's lesson. Someone says, "You're so emotional." Most people say, "No, I'm not." Wrong again. Instead, what specifically are you referring to? Or, "You're characterizing my emotional state," instead of discussing anything specific. Let's stop there, because we're going to introduce a concept that will become very important throughout this course. Respond to the signal, not the statement. Respond to the signal, not the statement. Someone says, "You're so emotional." What are they actually doing? They are characterizing you. Someone says, "You're so difficult." What are they doing? Characterizing. Someone says, "No one likes working with you." What are they doing? Generalizing. Someone says, "People are talking." What are they doing? Speculating. Someone says, "Everyone thinks." What are they doing? Using anonymous authority. Do you see the difference? We are no longer responding to the content. We are responding to the process. We are identifying what they're doing. And once we identify what they are doing, we stop getting trapped by what they're saying. Now let's learn some categories, okay? Category number 1, characterizations. Here's an example. "You're so difficult. You're rude. You're so selfish. You're negative. You're arrogant." Notice how they all begin with "you're." Power phrase. You are describing my character rather than describing a specific behavior. Say that. You are describing my character rather than discussing a specific behavior. End on a down note. Category number 2, emotional state attacks. Here's some examples of those. You are so angry. You're defensive. Don't get so emotional. Boy, that sure triggered you. Power phrase. You are characterizing my emotional state rather than discussing facts. Again, you are characterizing my emotional state rather than discussing facts. Remember, end on a down note, not, you're characterizing my emotional state rather than discussing facts. Don't do that. You're characterizing my emotional state rather than discussing facts. See the difference? Example number 3. Generalizations. Here are some examples. Ugh, you always do this. You never listen. Nobody likes working with you. Everyone thinks you're difficult. Power phrase. Can you be more specific? Everyone, no one, always, never. Remember, it's not, can you be more specific? That says, I'm a nitwit, I'm accepting your frame. Can you be more specific? Simple, powerful, professional. Okay? Category number 4, smears. Let's talk about smears. A smear is an attempt to damage your reputation without discussing specific facts. For example, people are concerned. I've been hearing some things. We've had some complaints. Some people have issues. Power phrase. Those types of accusations require specifics. Again, those types of accusations require specifics. Or, I'm happy to discuss facts. I'm not willing to respond to vague accusations. Once again, I'm happy to discuss facts. I'm not willing to respond to vague accusations. Notice the down notes. Now I want to give you one of my favorite principles. Confusion is not a place you visit. It's a place you leave. Many people will invite you into confusion. They will invite you into assumptions, into gossip, into labels, into characterizations, into emotional speculation. You do not have to accept that invitation. And that brings us to today's body language rule. Do not tilt your head. Now, I know that sounds simple, but watch what happens when most people are accused of something. They tilt their head. They smile nervously. They look confused. They begin seeking approval. Do not do that. Head upright, chin level, shoulders relaxed. Pause, breathe, speak. The goal is not intimidation. The goal is self-connection. Now, before we finish, let's talk about training. Remember, you are not learning information. You are building instincts. You are creating new patterns. For years, your pattern may have been accusation, defense, accusation, explanation, accusation, justification. Not anymore. We are interrupting that pattern. Because every time you interrupt a pattern, you take your power back. Every time you choose a new response, you teach your brain a new lesson. Every time you require specificity, you remain connected to yourself. And that's the real goal. Not winning, not convincing, not controlling, remaining connected to yourself. Now let's finish with today's vocabulary, okay? I need to give you some words that you need to become intimately familiar with, all right? Characterization, generalization, speculation, smear, assumption, label, attack, anonymous authority. Here are some words to use. Specific, clarify, behavior, facts, concrete, evidence, example, discuss. Now today's pact. From this day forward, I refuse to defend myself against the fog. I refuse to defend myself against assumptions. I refuse to defend myself against vague accusations. I refuse. I require specificity. I require facts. I require clarity. I make the fog identify itself. And I remain connected to myself, regardless of how someone else chooses to communicate. Now let's head to the workbook, okay? Because recognition without practice changes nothing. And today, we're going to start training your brain to see the fog the moment it appears. Now, if today's lesson helped you, I hope that you do two things. First, subscribe to this channel because this community exists for one reason, to make sure no one has to face these situations alone ever again. And number two, we are learning how to recognize the signs and understand what's happening and respond with clarity, confidence, and self-respect. We lift one another up and out. We share what we learn. And we refuse to let one more person disappear because they didn't know the signs or didn't know what to do when they saw them. I'd love to have you join us. And until next time, stay connected to yourself. Require clarity. And remember, you do not have to defend yourself. You have to lead yourself. And there's nothing that you have to say that you can't say in a more loving way. We're helping each other do that every day, one conversation at a time. Join us.